What's up, Internet? My name is Rob, and you are on the first official episode of Skywalker Talk. I'm really excited to do this. I've been running a gaming-related YouTube channel for about a year and a half called Rule of Two Review. Through that, I've found my way on the YouTubes and the internets, and this kind of D-list internet celebrity stardom that I think I've sort of attained. And through that, I wanted to take my massive Star Wars fanship and turn it into a secondary YouTube channel to basically share my love and excitement for Star Wars, the entire universe of Star Wars, the lore, the brand new trilogy, Episode 7, everything that's happening with the new canon, video games, novels, all that good stuff, and start sharing it with you guys and try to get other people just as excited and in love with Star Wars as I tend to be. Now, the quick preface before I get into the subject matter of this first episode is to kind of make sure that my mission statement for Skywalker Talk is understood. I am here to present a very unbiased, unabashed love of the lore. Not apologetically so. I'm definitely not a blinded fanboy, as a lot of people on the internet with different sort of nerd genres tend to look at certain things. But I will be certainly pushing forward with a not hateful kind of attitude towards things. Through that, it should be noted that I am somebody in running Skywalker Talk who, I bring this up often, I love all 6 films of the Star Wars current film saga. And I think that that's important because I think that there are 2 different kinds of Star Wars fans. Really 3 different kinds of Star Wars fans. There's the casual Star Wars fan, which in passing maybe enjoys the original 3 movies only, or even the prequel movies only. Basically, whether you enjoy one trilogy, you kind of sort of have an understanding. You don't really look at them as anything more than just some really successful films that a lot of people like, and you might not get it. Then there is what I'm going to call, and this may certainly segregate a lot of new viewers away from the channel. Please try not to take this too harshly. There are the uppity Star Wars fans, which in my opinion are the ones who only understand and appreciate the original films. And bear in mind, you're completely allowed to have that opinion. I have nothing against anyone having their own opinion. But people like that tend to be the ones that go out of their way to hate the prequel films and to get really angry with George Lucas, the creator of this wonderful universe. And they start segregating the 2 trilogies as not part of the same story. And yet those will be the people who sometimes, for any of you out there who look at it this way, sometimes you have the harshest opinions and criticisms on the universe. And in my opinion, I think that there is a huge aspect of the Skywalker legacy and the story that has been being told through the Star Wars 6-film saga that you don't understand. And I think that the less you understand, the less a person should laud these insane accusations and sometimes hateful or negative or rude comments or criticisms towards the films, especially the prequels. I mean, not to mention a large conglomerate of those people also do not enjoy Return of the Jedi because of ridiculous things like the Ewoks, which, by the way, are awesome. And there are times where Return of the Jedi might even be my favorite of the 6 films. So it really hurts me when there are so many people claiming to be Star Wars fans who will sometimes only enjoy or acknowledge 2 or 3 of the existing 6 films. That is 50% or less of what makes up Star Wars. And so I just find it unfortunate that that is so common and expected amongst some people only on the internet when they're discussing how they feel about Star Wars and where should Episode 7 go and where should the new trilogy go and who should be directing this and doing this going forward and yada yada, and let's move away from what the prequels did. And I feel like that's not fair to the lore and to the story of Star Wars and the, thousands of people that worked on these films and, the millions of fans who do love all 6 and the creator of this wonderful universe that we all claim to love, George Lucas. I find that stuff really not fair. So I will never take away anyone's right to feel that way. Bear that in mind. Anyone else out there with their own YouTube channels and blog posts and articles and this and that where, they will lay waste to the quality of the prequels because they seem to not like them and only acknowledge the older ones and all these things. If that's who you are and how you want to be, go for it. I encourage you to be the person you are. I'm not trying to tell you to change your mind. But the purpose of my channel, of Skywalker Talk, and the personality that I am is somebody who acknowledges and appreciates and loves all of it because I think it's all great. And I want it to be, known for anyone who might stumble upon this channel and feel like they want to get involved as I move forward leading into The Force Awakens. You are going to hear conversation acknowledging all 6 films. And I it's just an important mission statement, like I said, for myself and for Skywalker Talk. So I don't want to dwell on it any more than that. There are certainly occasions where things aren't great, and that will be addressed when it comes down to business, when I'm discussing things. But bear in mind, you are going to be hearing opinions and watching a man who loves all of the films equally. And I'm really excited to be able to do that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for myself and for hopefully anyone else who gets involved. So, with that part out of the way, I want to get into the meat of this first episode for Skywalker Talk, which, by the way, will be nothing more than just vlog format stuff for me. You're going to see me in probably usually the same spot discussing different random things as they come out, whether it's theoretical things that just come up in my mind or relevant news relating to the development of the new trilogy or any of the recently announced anthology films and where they're going from there. So, this first episode, what I want to do is spend a little bit of time discussing with you this wonderful, wonderful magazine and this amazing article released by Vanity Fair. I'm sure you all saw it in the last couple of weeks, the photo shoot that was happening, where they go really in depth with the brainstorming idea of George Lucas when he was getting ready to start production, basically story treatments on the new trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9, and also realizing he was going to retire and unfortunately sell the company to Disney, something I'm not a huge fan of. And just a lot of what the creators and the minds behind Lucasfilm and Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and everything going on, what's been the driving force and what that process has been like. It's an amazing read. I recommend any Star Wars fan get out there and read it. What's really cool is going back to when The Phantom Menace was getting ready to release. George Lucas had, with all of those prequel films, episodes 1, 2, and 3, leading into the release of each respective film, Vanity Fair got to do this exact thing. There was a cover story and a huge article blowing the doors open and all the information about each film as they were getting ready to come out. And interviews with George Lucas and the cast and all this excitement, and it was just a very big deal. So I really appreciate the tradition continuing with, the new trilogy and with Episode 7. I think that it's fantastic. So what is it that you'll get from this article? I'm sure a lot of people, you might have read it yourself, or you can get a lot of people doing write-ups and videos kind of giving a synopsis of what's discussed. The reason I love it is because there is a lot of time spent on George Lucas himself and what was going on with his ideas for getting started with the story. And they spend a lot of time talking to J.J. Abrams a little bit, but also Kathleen Kennedy. And I got to tell you, that's a fantastic thing. I love Kathleen Kennedy. When there were rumors that Lucas was going to be retiring in the year or so before he did that, the rumors were that Kathleen Kennedy was the person he was going to have take over for him. And instantly I fell in love. I mean, it was a sad thing because I didn't want to imagine Lucasfilm or, Star Wars or anything in the world where George Lucas wasn't involved. I just wasn't prepared for that because I love George Lucas. I mean, he's not perfect, and he's made mistakes with all 6 films here and there, some minor ones, some bigger than others for sure. But I still love the guy, and he's the one who I've always wanted to tell me the Star Wars story. It's his story. Don't tell me the story I have in my head. Tell me your story, George. Tell me the story that exists in your head because you're the one who brought it to us. And that's always been very important to me. So envisioning Lucasfilm and Star Wars without him was a very hard thing to do, but in hearing that it was going to be Kathleen Kennedy, I was like, all right, I'm totally okay with that. She's a wonderful woman. She goes way back with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg on so many films. The Kennedy Marshall production company she's had with her husband has made some amazing films too. I encourage you to look up the filmography there. And she helped produce Raiders of the Lost Ark with Lucas and Spielberg. The entire Indiana Jones saga and many other things. She knew and has been very close with Lucas going back to the original Star Wars films. Jaws with Steven Spielberg in 1975. I mean, there's a great history there, so she was a great person to talk to. So what is it that I also love about this article? Why is it that you should read it? Because you're going to get an idea of some of the original ideas of what Lucas was trying to do with, the new trilogy. And, some people don't seem to love this idea, but they talk about how his initial just story treatments, that was all he ever did, focused on some younger characters, teenagers, they say, and I thought that could have been very interesting. I'm certainly curious how that could have turned out. Some people are spinning that poorly, negatively, and I think that's because just the use of the word teenagers, I think, is in context is sort of being meant to sound negative. And I feel like it doesn't have to be. I understand that they wanted to avoid what happened with Phantom Menace, where they had a 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker and a 14-year-old Queen Amidala, where we had sort of already visited young characters, young children in a Star Wars story. And I agree with that. In that respect, I totally understand why it's like, we've already done that. Let's move on to something different. Let's get some older people. At the end of the day, I'm happier with the idea of the older people that we have right now, it seems like, going into the new trilogy. But I think that, whatever story Lucas had in his head, I think would have been really fantastic, and I would have trusted him implicitly. So whatever reason he would have had to start off with these young characters in this new trilogy, it would have been very interesting to see, who would they have been? Would he have been borrowing from the expanded universe that is now been turned into the Legends series, where it's maybe the children of Luke and Mara Jade and Han Solo and Leia, and maybe that's why they would have been so young. Anakin and Jason Solo would be great characters to see. Who knows? I mean, that it's really interesting to see. I think that it's tough, man, because I was really not thrilled when I heard that he had story treatments that Lucasfilm and Disney decided not to use, because I felt like they sort of owed it to the creator to tell his story, and I think that would have been the best story to tell. But I understand, Kathleen Kennedy has a great quote where she mentions how, he turned in this first story treatment as he was retiring, and it was some good stuff that focused on younger characters, and we decided to go in a different direction with a lot of that stuff. But, I don't know how she said it. It's no different than a typical creative process when making a film. And so I was like, okay, like that makes sense. I'm sure that that's probably true. And I totally understand where she's coming from. She knows and trusts George, and I think that she wants to tell the best Star Wars story possible going into this new trilogy, especially with the mammoth expectations behind it. And so I definitely see where she's coming from there. Talking about the casting was great. Again, I'm not trying to make this whole first episode just about George Lucas and this article, but it's a lot of the article, and it's why I like it so much. They mentioned that George Lucas is the one who got Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford back on track for this new trilogy. He was the one who met them all for lunch at different times, including Kathleen Kennedy when he told her he was going to retire and wanted her to take over. He's the one who got those actors back on for this story. That's a big deal. That's something else that when we see The Force Awakens on December 18th this year, and we see those characters show up and everyone cheers and loses their mind, and it's so wonderful seeing them back in these roles again, we need to remember that's thanks to the man himself, the creator of the series, who got that to happen. So pretty cool stuff. They spend time talking to John Williams, of course, discussing how he's scoring this first film. I hope he stays around for the entire trilogy. He's a pretty old man, but hey, if he's in it to win it with Episode 7, hopefully he sticks around for 8 and 9 as well. It'll be interesting to see, because now without the relationship with him and George Lucas, that might change with the filmmakers going forward. We know that Rian Johnson is taking over for Episode 8. There's rumors about who would take over for Episode 9, if JJ would come back, or if Rian Johnson would do both 8 and 9, or if they get a third different person to direct Episode 9. It's very exciting to think about how this stuff is going to play out, actually. It's pretty cool. The photo shoot, there's some amazing photos in here. There's a lot of information revealed from it as well. You might have already seen this stuff. The cover photo is just a great photo that's showing the character of Rey, John Boyega's character, Finn, I believe. Of course, you got Han Solo and Chewbacca on the cover here. It's great seeing them back. But inside, we actually get some information. Probably my favorite piece is the reveal of Kylo Ren, the character clad in black. We see him in the newest teaser trailer with that mask on. He does this whole hand thing that's all super badass looking. And we know that Adam Driver was, I think, if I remember right, Adam Driver from the show Girls, he was the first officially casted individual that was made public, I believe, if I remember right, going back now a year and a half ago or whenever that was. I didn't know who he was, and that actually made me excited, because these films, I think, thrive on unknown actors, just like Lucas's initial fundamentals for the original trilogy. And so I was like, cool, someone I don't know playing someone. There was rumors he would be the bad guy, and I was like, okay, awesome. I would love to hear about the villain first for the new Star Wars, not just the heroes. And it was confirmed that he is playing Kylo Ren, and there's a gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful picture of him on a snow planet that we don't know is Hoth. Everyone wants to jump on the Hoth bandwagon, and I know why. And it maybe is Hoth, but it maybe isn't Hoth, and that's pretty cool. And he's got the new snowtroopers behind him, which look amazing. They look so much like a throwback to the original troopers of the original trilogy, and it's just so awesome. And seeing him without the helmet on, and his hair's all long and flowing back, and he just looks like a badass. And who is Kylo Ren? who is he? He's obviously the bad guy. He has to be the bad guy. We know he's that fellow with that broadsword saber from the first teaser trailer that everyone lost their minds about. So, and I'm colorblind, but if I remember right, that was red. So it seems like he's obviously a bad guy. He's evil. He's a Sith. He could be a Dark Jedi. Maybe they bring the Dark Jedi back. They sort of toyed with the Dark Jedi idea a little bit in Attack of the Clones with Dooku when they first discuss him early on when Senator Amidala comes in to speak with Mace Windu and Yoda. But they never really did anything more with that in the films. It is discussed a little bit in the expanded universe, the Legend stuff. So maybe he's a Dark Jedi, maybe he's just a Rogue Jedi. I mean, where the story is going at this point, after the events of Return of the Jedi, where the heroes and the rebellion is successful, at least at that point, in destroying the Death Star and Darth Vader and Palpatine, we think. What's been happening to the Jedi? Did Luke start a new Jedi Order like he did in the expanded universe on Yavin 4? Are all the rogue Jedi that had been surviving throughout that time period of the original trilogy, the Battle of Yavin, are they now being called upon to come back? And is he this answer to those individuals? Is he maybe just somebody who was a rogue, Force-sensitive person who turned evil at some point, now 30 or 40 years after Return of the Jedi, Episode 6? Who knows? I mean, now I'm getting all nerdy and just starting to theorize, and that's not really the point here. Long story short, it's just great seeing that Adam Driver is playing Kylo Ren, so that's really cool. It also shows us what is almost my favorite picture until I saw the Kylo Ren one, was the confirmation of Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones. Just the best character and the most amazing, wonderful woman. She is playing Captain Phasma, who is that clone trooper from the second trailer. Now, really cool to see. What I like is that in the trailer, when you see the clone trooper, what I took away from it when I first saw the trailer was that it wasn't one individual. I thought maybe, there are just clone troopers, plural. Maybe that's a rank amongst the troopers. And there's like the standard, clone and stormtroopers, which are the white guys, as we know, and we've seen what the new helmets look like. And there's might also be like a higher rank, maybe almost on par with like how the Imperial Guards were, the guys clad in red with the masks and the big staffs that always accompanied Palpatine, Darth Sidious, wherever he went. I was like, maybe it's like the new version of that, and it's like there's this clone trooper sort of rank in the hierarchy of troopers. And this kind of says to me the fact that there's a specific name for the character Captain Phasma, and that it's being played by somebody significant, and we know this actor, makes me think that, well, that must be really just the one person. Maybe she is one specific person who is a very, very high rank, almost maybe the equivalent of what Darth Vader was, in the sense that Darth Vader was not the pupil by the time the original trilogy stuff came around, but he was like the second rank, the right-hand man to the real ruler, which was the Emperor, Darth Sidious. And maybe in this, whatever is happening politically amongst, the Empire, which I think is probably still existing this far down the road, maybe she's the right-hand man, so to speak, of whoever is actually in charge, in a trooper status. So that's really kind of interesting to think. Who knows where that's going to go? The one last thing I want to say about Captain Phasma is there's a small conversation happening on the internet where people discuss if she is secretly going to be good. Because it's just a character we know and love. And honestly, I love Gwendolyn Christie as a good guy on Game of Thrones, but I don't want that. I mean, Star Wars thrives almost more on its villains than it does its heroes. And I don't want the new trilogy or Episode 7 to lose sight of its villains. And the trilogy is, think back to the original trilogy. Think back to Darth Vader, I mean, the villain is so important. Even the prequels, there's an amazing villain in all three of those films. Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and frickin' Sidious, and then eventually Darth Vader. I mean, you need those villains. They are the foil to the heroes and the good, and that's what defines Star Wars, is the very black and white portrayal of evil is evil, good is good. They are on two sides, and they clash. Boom, just like that. So if we lose sight of the villains and everyone turns out to be good and there's not really an evil force and like specific people that we know are bad, I think that's going to hinder the new trilogy and the experience of Episode 7. So I don't think that she's going to turn out to be good, and beyond that, I sure hope she isn't. I want Captain Phasma to be a bad guy. I think she will play an amazing bad guy, but of course the question becomes, do we ever see her face, outside of the Captain Phasma Chrome Trooper suit? And I'm sure we will, especially since we know it's her playing the character, but you never know. So I don't know. And I also think it's just, can we just say how awesome it is that a woman is playing a trooper? I mean, that's amazing. So anyway, obviously this conversation about the Vanity Fair article has turned into theorizing about the movies and the trilogies, but that's the purpose of this article. It's also what I do. I'm a long-winded son of a gun, so I hope you like long Star Wars conversations. There's some other stuff with Lupita and... Oh, God, what's her name? Lupita Nyong'o. I'm such a jerk for mispronouncing it, and I didn't go back and look at it. But the actress Lupita, she's an Oscar winner for 12 Years a Slave, amazing woman, and she had all the motion capture dots on her face, so we know she's playing somebody whose face we won't see. It's Maz something. That's the character that she is playing, which sounds like it's going to be... the equivalent of like the gangster status that Jabba the Hutt was in the original trilogy. So that'll be very interesting to see what's going on there. So anyway, going back to Vanity Fair and wrapping up this first episode, it's a great read. You get a lot of insight into the development of the film, the birth of ideas and casting from George Lucas, where they went from his initial story and turned it into what it is now, how John Williams is involved, a lot of stuff with Kathleen Kennedy. It's a great introduction to the real behind-the-scenes information about Episode 7, The Force Awakens, the new third trilogy in the epic Star Wars film saga. It's an amazing time to be excited for Star Wars. It's an amazing read for all Star Wars fans. It's unfortunate that it's Vanity Fair because, for me, really, there's nothing else in the magazine for me and probably for a lot of people who would watch this because it's Vanity Fair. But that's okay. I mean, it's worth it for this article. The $6 or whatever I paid for this magazine more than made up for it because I got this information. And it's a great collectible, too. Remember this, guys. We're back. We're getting back into collectible Star Wars Nation here with the new films coming out. This... In 20 years, when we might even have another trilogy, or who knows what's going to be happening with Star Wars in 20 years, when we can think back to 2014 and 2015, before the new trilogy was starting, this kind of thing, this magazine, will be a serious collectible. This is a big deal. So that's another reason why I would encourage you to go out and pick this up. It's still available for another couple weeks, I think. Go to your local bookstore, go to Barnes & Noble, go to your grocery store, find this Vanity Fair magazine and pick it up because it's amazing. It's a wonderful read for Star Wars fans, lots of inside info, and it's just going to get you more pumped for the film, man. That's the whole purpose. So, okay, so that's it. I'm going to end this first episode of Skywalker Talk here. This has been a lot of fun. My videos will probably be about this long. That's how Skywalker Talk will go. Also, I will be having guests joining on Skywalker Talk in the future as well. It's a huge part. I have a lot of plans here. I do have a conglomerate of folks who I know on YouTube because I've been doing YouTube for, like I said, almost 2 years now, with my other gaming-related channel. So there are other people who have expressed interest in wanting to get in on Skywalker Talk and being involved with some Star Wars conversations and getting excited, you know. So I have a lot of great ideas, great plans for future episodes and things to get everyone excited about Star Wars. My plan is a weekly series. I want to do this once a week for you guys. I'm going to pick a day and make that happen every day, every week, with the occasional exception where, you know, life might get in the way. I have to reschedule that stuff. But that's what you can look forward to. So I will say thank you so much for tuning in. You know, this is the first episode. Probably not a whole lot of viewers here, but, you know, I'm doing this just because I love it and I want to talk Star Wars, man, because I am excited. And I hope you are too. Thank you guys for checking out episode 1 of Skywalker Talk. Again, my name is Rob. I super appreciate your fanship, and I will see you next time on another episode.